we are recording afterwards, but if you want anything, comments, questions not recorded, do just say. I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, Mihai, to take us through the jOCDS validator platform. And each of our speakers has got 5 to 10 minutes to talk about their platform, what they've worked on. And then if you've got brief questions for them afterwards, feel free to ask those. At the end of the call, we can have some wider kind of general reflections on tools. So over to you, Mihai.
Yes, thank you. Hi guys. So this presentation is about this tool we have developed, development gateway. It's called jOCDS. It's a data for OpenContractr data standard, and we realized we need this early while implementing reports using data from clients. We need something that is robust and works so with Java-based tools. We have a stack of Java tools that we use with our OpenContractr work.
Oh, and Mihai,
Yes.
Can you just check your screen sharing? We can't see your screen at the moment.
Oh, okay. Let me check it. You started recording, it just went off.
Okay, have it now.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so I was talking about this tool. We've developed it because we needed something that could be reusable and that allows us to validate OCDS standard along with extensions, and it works in command line, and also it can be embedded in our tools easily. We've started working with large chunks of data, and so we wanted to develop something that works with small chunks, and it's easy to use, but also can be used with larger pieces of data or streams of when can validate in streams. So this tool is open source. It's published on GitHub. It has an MIT license. We have a GitHub page where we receive issues, and we have a few people that opened some issues for us. And we publish binaries on BinTray, which means you can download directly executables, and you can read directly on your computer. It can be used I think it can be used by non-techies quite easily. We have packages that can be just downloaded and run on any laptop, and it just opens you a command line where you can validate things, or a nice web server where you can just a nice interface up. I'm going to show you quickly. Then we have a demo here where basically you can use this to access and validate OCDS online if you have such a need. So I was saying that it's pretty executable. Of course, you can also download the source code, and this is the link. We can download. We publish versions on BinTray. And about the input now. So in terms of input, it allows validating URLs. So you can just give the tool a URL of the OCDS data stream, and it will validate that. You can validate local files. As I say, you can download it as a command line tool. It also has an API, so you can run it as a web server on your computer or on your server, on your infrastructure. It doesn't have to have Java installed. It doesn't have to have Java as a dependency in terms of your tools, so you can use Python or anything else. API is JSON based. It can be used as a library inside your apps as Java tool. So and this is not a requirement. So you can use it with any other tool, Python, PHP. It doesn't, as long as you use it with the JSON API. As I said, it has a built-in user interface that can help you validate OCDS. It allows you to put here all sorts of parameters that I will show you in a bit. You can also upload the entire JSON here, or you can direct it to a URL. It interface. This is an example of validation run using the command line. And basically, what does this validator do? And it can validate OCDS schemas. We try to put all the schemas that are released, both major and minor versions. So we have from 1.0.0 to 1.1.3. You can override the schemas, even if your OCDS schema says it has some version. You can try it. It can auto-detect it, but you can try it on something else. It works in error and warning mode. In error, it will only give you a standardized output if you have a schema validation error. But in warning, it prints you all sorts of problems like deprecation. There's an OCDS concept of deprecation, but it also prints problems from the extensions, because the extensions can have all sorts of garbage or leftover fields that are not compliant to the schema. So it prints that as well. Try to build it a very strict in terms of JSON schema. If you run it in warning, it's very verbose, but in error it doesn't. It only stops for errors. It has complete OCDS extension support. So it supports all OCDS community and maintained extensions in both offline and online. So we fetch it with the extensions as well. Of course, if you have the URLs provided for extensions, it will fetch those online if you have internet, but it can work even if you don't have internet. It will validate as long as it knows the extension name. It will try to figure out where the extension is placed in the jOCDS and will validate that. And can, as I mentioned, can validate. We tested with pretty large data sets and streams. This is the texture side, but it's I think I try to compress as much as I could, so we could skip this if I'm in time. So we have an internal API. I'll just say a few words. We have a schema cache. This is used so that we can validate a lot of streams fast without loading the schema and extensions all the time. So we have a schema cache that has to do with extensions that applied or not. And we have the command line interface and external API that feed through this the internal API that is used to do the validation. And of course, you have the validation result output that can be that is JSON, as I mentioned. So that's it. Thank you. If you have questions, and this is all for the demo. Then access right now if you want to play with a bit of JSON and extensions. So.
Does you have any questions straight away from Mihai? Feel free in the chat or unmute and ask.
If I may, as a person who's never really used the validator of the OCDS or hasn't the technical implementation of OCDS, what's the advantage of your validator compared to the one which is on the OCDS website?
Yeah, we try to support all the extensions, both minor bug fixing and basically everything that OCDS has released. I thought this is going to be useful if someone wants to check for backwards compliance between datasets. We also support version extensions, so we can have extensions for versions with extensions. And we have as I said, we use a standardized schema validation that is pretty strict. So if you want to see, we found all sorts of problems with some of the extensions. Like if you want to be very strict with the extension support, sometimes there are like keywords that are put there by the community. And I'm not talking about the official standard extensions, but there are lots of other extensions, and it's very easy to see if everything is clear and well formed and to the early warnings about problems. Also, it works with a large data sets. So, and again, it's Java based, so we integrated it with our Java stack. So
So it's a really good question. There's a blog post I've just put a link to in the chat where we explore the differences between the two tools and how they're kind of complementary, and particularly when you might use one over the other. And the OCDS validator, for people who've not seen that, I've got on screen now. The data standard validator's focus is on giving people feedback and guidance during the development of their data, but it's not suited towards enterprise integration and kind of validating every single release as you go all the time. So this validator is very much tailored towards giving you actually the correct file. So it's not giving me the useful feedback. If I put an incorrect file through here, it would be giving me a lot more kind of links to the documentation, so that for people working to individual entries, whereas jOCDS really has that kind of enterprise at scale piece that I think is where they're slightly different audiences.
Super.
So yeah, so well, it's a question, no, but I'm interested in this in validator because I've worked a bit like tool and trying to see how I use APIs from any of the validators. I've worked only at the moment with the OCDS validator. I'm the one that's on screen now. The results are quite helpful, but haven't made much headway regarding how you connect, integrate the tool to my some external application. Use web interface, you use a web API.
Yeah, but the API, no, it's the page that you that showed you is it's a website, but it has internal API queries that are quite obvious if you use it. So it can be used without any web page. So it has some endpoints. We have like 4 or 5 endpoints. One is for URL validation, one is for uploading the JSON, and another one is to do form validation. It's explained on the website, but you can use it directly. Yeah, you don't have to go to the website. The website is more like a interactive help of how to use the API. You can skip it altogether if you know how to use it.
That's wonderful. That's great.
Fantastic. So we can collect other questions in chat or later. That's the point where we can maybe hand over to Patrick to talk about OpenContractr. So I'm screen sharing right now, Patrick, and you just need to click the screen button.
I have continue.
Not yet. You might need to click sharing again.
Can you
now have the presenter rights, but you'll use the quick start tab in WebEx.
Right.
Click share.
I can share screen. Right.
Okay, coming now. So Patrick's going to talk to us about OpenContractr.
Right. OpenContractr is basically well, it's a handy tool. Handy because it's based on WordPress. It's a WordPress plugin basically that helps publishers to publish OCDS information. It's an iterative process over and to make it more user-friendly, so that publishers who know nothing about OCDS or know nothing about all bits of work from can use it, can find it very useful. So what I have on the screen now is a kind of way to start off. So it basically did a number of elements. Is create a contract, and there is to edit the contract, and then there is search for contracts, and then things coming up, the validation, and then validation at the moment. But at the moment, right now on the screen, to enter a contract, it wouldn't enter much, but then the idea is the split OCDS into different questions, you can say, that would help the publisher by what is what field is what exactly. So what whom it's procured, from whom, and then when, why, how much, by whom. So yeah, that's that. Based on all into different questions. So it's under the title of the contract. We're not going to go through everything, but just to demonstrate quickly how this works. Project title, well, that could be, for example, a bit different from project title, but that's just to be easier for the user. And then description of the tender, for whom as well. This is who is purchasing. Now this, one selects an organization, just have a sample, and then the ID, which is the back end, the admin section, the organizations is managed at the back end, and then that is simply populates this list over here. From whom, so potential suppliers, the same thing. They're organizations, that's the building block, and there are several organizations, they're suppliers, and then so just to the dates that the purchases or the procurements will take place, start date, all this from the fields, and that's the procurement, how much to be paid, and then who paying, or again, an organization. So it just puts all these bits together from the different organizers them to make it easier for publishers to get going immediately. Now, once that's done, and then it saves the release start, as you can say. They're already downloadable CSV or JSON here, but then obviously that isn't enough because there are more fields that can be, as needed, can be populate the rational budget information according to yes fields, the schema, the tender, awards, contracts. Now it's easier because lots of these fields can be a long list, especially the tender. There is kind of some fields that one can jump to if they know what that means, with long descriptions of what each one refers to. That's it. When that's done, obviously, when where fields need to be filled are then and save. But then there's a problem when you choose what capture what's been done. This is really for real information. So find information updated or amended or updated or term for the contract. So to select that and then save, and when that's done, contracts up. Now this creates a release according to the kind of specification for publishing OCDS. Right, so that can easily be downloaded. Now, there's also the search feature as well, which one can use to search for different consistent system based on title, description, procurement entity, or all of them, or everything. So, that's a list of contracts, just sample facts. Just work in progress at the moment, but then here's that you can always edit if you want. Should be able to possibly download from here as well, but that is left at the moment to the back end. If I could go there very quickly, the WordPress admin. One can see the organizations, the collection and fields. Just to something that's put different, something we worked on, and that is this thing called data completeness score. That is something we're experimenting with because it's just to help publishers determine how complete it is, but they have to make some settings at the back end. So, for example, first of all, what fields they like to publish as part of the policy, publication policy. And when you select fields, they select what fields are using, and then save that. Okay, now give them a score there, and then when they fill the form, it's calculated based on that score over there, and gives them the completeness score. Obviously, leave this at 100, everything, but let's select all fields to be populated, but maybe not. For case that helps them to determine or to see how much data and how much they're populating the OC information. Right, that's it. But just to mention the Hi has spoken about validator. We're trying to also connect to some validator. So we've been working with the OC validator, but then jOCDS might also be useful because we just want to call based on what's been published here, make a call to the validator and then get the results here, so that the user can easily make amends when they see the errors that arise from this. So I think that we're working also on the visualization system. Okay, it's still early stages at the moment, just to test, see what possible chart visualizations could emerge from this, and then to make it also able to import any release document, and then it generates the visualization. It's tied to OpenContractr, but could be open at some point.
Thank you, Patrick. That's a really good overview. Does anyone have any questions for Patrick they'd like to put?
I was just wondering how the edit rights work on the sort of front part of websites. So can anyone edit any contract, or does the user only get to edit their own contracts?
Right. So it uses the WordPress user management system. So even at the front end, you do have rights at the back end as an editor to manage anything on this page, create or to edit contracts. So you do have to log in short.
Questions?
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
When are you thinking about actually using this in Nigeria, Patrick?
Right.
Yeah. Hi.
Well, it's not clear because in the different governments in Nigeria. Okay, we're looking at doing it in a subnational at state level, because there's something already existing at the national level. So in the precise, we're looking to work with some MDs because it's a tool, and so for MDAs, small, well, big or small, but generally manageable, it will make sense. And of course, it could work well with WordPress. There's multi-user. Okay, so it can collate all the contracts together. So the question is, I'm not sure.
That's fine. That's all right. That's what I expected.
Questions people have got?
I don't know whether you covered this and I missed it, but so every time you edit another record, you have the opportunity to say, "Oh, I'm just changing something which would appear as a new release," or you could say, "Actually, this is a brand new so I'm editing an old release and it's still got the same ID, or you're making a new release in the future?
No, it really has an audit trail. Each Octavian has an audit release and audit trail, and so it's always a new release. Anytime you hit that button, save, then a new release is created. So if you want out a new contract, then one simply just creates start a new contract. But then afterwards, for the life of that contract, each subsequent application is a release.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Patrick. I mean, it looks like a really, really great tool that will help the people, realize the barriers to entry, doesn't it, for people doing their data in OCDS format. So, yeah, really, really wonderful to see that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go on to the next tool now. And unfortunately, due to a booking error, we don't have James McKinney with us. But our colleagues on the Latin American Help Desk very kindly yesterday prepared some slides on the tool James was going to talk to, OCDS Kit. So I'll give you a very brief run through of that now. Hopefully I've managed to translate it all back into English. And we're going from Patrick sharing with us a tool for creating data. Now a set of small little tools for all tasks you might want to carry out once you've got a bit of OCDS JSON on your desktop or on the command line. So I'll just give you 2 or 3 minutes on this. But OCDS Kit is a collection of command line tools modeled on other tools out there like CSV Kit. It's something James has brought together. You can find it both on GitHub, and for people who are Python users, it's available just via pip install. So you can, if you're using Python, pull data in. And the way it works is by just streaming OCDS files to it through standard input. So much like you'd use tools like Cat or Q. To give you a kind of feature it's got commands for combining record and release packages. So if, for example, you have many releases or records from different processes and you want to combine those into a single release package, you can take all those files. So here, all of the record packages in a folder, do OCDS Kit's combine record package command, and it will combine those into a single package. Really, for doing all those little tasks that you might find you need to do when processing data. Some of you want to create a compiled release, say, so there it's got the command OCDS Kit compile. So we can take a package full of individual releases, but from the same process, and create the record of those, again, using the command line tool. And a couple of other things in there. It's got help pages, so you can explore what features it has under active development. So if you see new features you think would be handy, James is often adding those. A couple of others just to flag up to you. It's got a feature in there for converting data into an SQLite database, so any relational database. So the command that we can release package, and it will effectively guess a database structure to put it into. So for simple analysis, it's one of the commands that run basic schema validation. It's got some commands just to format and nicely display a collection of JSON. It's also got some tools to generate a mapping sheet from a schema. So you can take a schema and generate a kind of list of all the fields, say in an extended schema. So that's just a quick tour of OCDS Kit command line tools that you can get on GitHub. I have many questions about it, but if anyone's got questions, then please do fire away, and I can either answer or forward them to James McKinney.
No question. Say that it seems to be very useful, especially the mapping schema feature. It's very interesting.
Maybe a suggestion. may.
Of course.
So just to make sure I understand correctly, on the website of the OCDS, I think you have the serialization tool, which also makes a CSV out of the JSON, but flatten it, while the toolkit, there's something for making CSV out of the JSON, but not flattening it. Is that correct?
So the CSV output here is simply a mapping sheet. So it would say, here are all the fields, but it would say, here's their contents. So it's when you want to understand a particular schema, all the list of fields in that schema covers.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to go to James Buster, who's going to talk to us about OCDS data. It's been an exploration of ways to get all of the data we can into one place to analyze. So James, I need to make you present it.
So, is that hopefully hearing? This will be very quick. So I just wanted to quickly introduce the new ETL tool we're working on, although it's still a work in progress as it fits the theme of this meeting. It seems like a very good opportunity. So the tool is written in Python 3, extracts information from various places and stores for raw data on disk. This data is then loaded into Postgres for analysis. So that side, we have 16 sources already programmed. I just got 2 more, I think, so 18. And so each source is an individual Python script. It means that you can deal with any issues that come up when you're fetching with data, such as paging or authentication, finding data through other bits of data or web pages, or any other issue that comes up. Your individual Python script can deal with that and return the information download. Every source too as well, you can download only a sample because some of them have literally thousands of links and would take a very long time downloading full. Those can be resumed afterwards, so track progress. The tool is historical extraction, so we can do analysis over time to see what's changed. You can just use this extract part with no Postgres if you want. The results are stored on files on disk for you to work with in other tools. Postgres. They then load the records into raw data and then into normalized tables for analysis and checks. So it does for some checks as the data standard validator. We store different extractions at different points in time, again for historical analysis, and we're trying to be clever about how we store the raw data, minimize space used if the data has not changed between historical analysis, between historical points. This is complete for the ET stage, perhaps. This is something we've got to build out and focus on so that our analysts can sort of use this to check approved data. So currently a work in progress. We have access to a server with lots of data can be provided for people to work on, but it is all, of course, open source on GitHub. So if you want to have a look and use it yourself and give any feedback, please do. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, James. Did anyone have any questions about the new ETL tool?
So you'll be able to do cross-source queries, like from multiple sources, and see horizontal statistics or something like that.
That would be good to build towards, yes.
Yeah, out of experience of people asking questions like who's publishing field X, or what's going on with data on Y. And that's knowing we need from the help desk position to be able to answer some of those questions, but we've tried to build it in a way that it'll be useful to others as well. So not aiming to create a big aggregation of all the data, but aiming to create something that we can use to do some of that cross-case analysis in certain circumstances.
Interesting. So did you say that so using PostgreSQL, are you going to make all the DMSs as well?
We have any plans to do that at the moment. We are using some specific Postgres features like JSON columns. So there may be, and we're looking at sort of, I think we had a discussion on whether we would use a lot of SQL functions and sort of triggers. So I don't know. That might, it might be possible to put that in later, but that's not something that we're looking at to start with.
I think what's more likely and more workable would be once we've got the normalized tables in Postgres. That's where the least Postgres specific stuff will be to work with it. May well be possible to stick another database on the end of the process. But once the normalization has happened, you can then load into another DBMS for querying and management.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? So we have about 15 minutes or so more for this call. We can kind of have a more wide discussion about tools that we're using and need. So there's space if people have got other tools they'd like to share updates about that they've been working on, or we've got kind of questions about tools that might be out there for working with and doing OCDS data and kind of engaging with creation and use. Just share, I think people will be hopefully aware of the OGP Toolbox that we created to list lots of tools we are aware of already that are out there. Also, I'll just put that on screen and I'll put a link to it in a moment as well. That's this platform here, OGP. And certainly I can see there's some things we need to update in there based on what we've seen today. Observations on where we are with OCDS tooling or other tools they'd like to just mention in our conversation.
If I may, so I was very interested in James Baster's presentation about what we can do with a new approach for analysis of OCDS data using Postgres. And my understanding is that we're moving away from perhaps some of the BigQuery ways that we originally were going to use for making it possible to analyze OCDS data in mass. And I was hoping that, because I'm very new, somebody would be able to explain maybe in a little more detail about the analysis side and how we will be able to do things in the future. So there was an interesting question already about horizontal comparisons we could do. Could we just shape that a little bit about horizontal and vertical, and what will we be able to do? I mean, what are the primary things we're going to be able to say? Maybe James, maybe Rob Redpath, maybe Tim Davis. Maybe you could help me a little bit. That for anybody who's looking at analysis as well. What are they doing? I suppose that's an important topic, isn't it?
Definitely. So I'm going to try and share a different browser window, which may or may not work, because you've mentioned the work we've been doing with BigQuery. We're kind of moving to these new toolings. We've found some limitations with it, but I can show people that very briefly. You see a Google BigQuery window on my screen. So one of the things we did last year was create a collection of scripts in the OpenContractr sample data repository that we've now kind of been porting over to this new ETL tool. And there you'll find a collection of scripts for fetching data from different publishers. So as was mentioned, we think we've got 18 or 19 publishers with more or less valid data now available. Also in here are some tools for converting this to a standard structure. So basically dropping all the additional data extensions and other things that aren't in the core schema, and then loading it into Google's BigQuery platform, which is a column-based database, but that will accept JSON documents with a standard structure. And you'll see here, I've uploaded a large collection of different publishers' OCDS data. I get it in, I get sort of nested table structure. So I query this as tables. So I have to query tender.id to find our tender identifiers. And I can query a single data set. And this is live demo, not quite remembering, but I believe I can also use wildcards in here somehow. Possible to, with the right configuration, to query across all of our different data sets. So to either query a particular publisher's data, the UK, or do that horizontal query saying, well, you know, what's the presence of a particular field across everyone, so to wildcard across those tables. The other things we're then able to do with that BigQuery data is to link it up to analysis tools. So, for example, there's nice integration with Google's Data Studio, so you can connect to that as a back end, and then be able to build dashboards and other interfaces off it. The challenge we found with that, and this is written up in a blog post that Julia did for us again last year, that we can share, is the nested structure of OCDS can be slightly tricky to work with in a just generic data kind of import, which is why we're exploring this alternative model. But if you are looking to, in the next week or two, analyze across lots of different OCDS data, there is a lot stored up in a Google Cloud database that can be explored and queried, and we can give people access to that.
Oh, that's a good question.
Go ahead.
So you have lots of data sets in BigQuery to show us, but so kind of that's a limited number. How about say data sets? Could that, is there a way to accommodate data sets just to demonstrate the use of big areas?
So we haven't got a set plan right now to keep updating that, and one of the issues we were hitting was kind of keeping the data updated in here, because with the kind of strictness of the BigQuery import, sometimes we were hitting kind of import issues. But there's nothing to stop us loading new data sets into here. And if there's an interesting question of whether it's useful for the open contracting community as a whole for there to be a kind of updated corpus of data from what we know out there is published. I don't know well, but yes, data sets can be added to this. Questions or issues that we should touch on?
Hi, I had a comment sort of reflecting on the variety of things that we've seen today. It's interesting to see a range of tools, a range of complexities, a range of use cases. Oftentimes we thinking about the first thing we do as at least at DG is we're thinking about what are the tools that we need, to conduct our work. And so the validator came out of a direct need for constant validation that we had when we were developing a tool. But we're trying to think of things that can be useful to the community and have some grand designs for developing out a lot of you have seen our analytics tools, which demos are available on our website, and happy to share those links. They're also on that OGP toolkit you mentioned, or at least I think they are. So I saw an image of one, but I don't know if the link to the demo is there, so I'll have to check that. One of the grand designs is to make those type of tools, those types of analytics tools, much easier for people to implement. And we have how we can do that. And one of the that we think could be interesting would be to not make it easier for developers to implement, but also make it easier for program managers to monitor and to effectively, to change thresholds, things like that would enable them without any development skills to more control of their analytics. Those are some of the things that we've been thinking about. But looking at Patrick's tool, it's clear that there's a lot of use cases that and a lot of potential users, particularly on like state and local levels, who can benefit from tools that are a very different need, clearly people without any development skills. And so I just wanted to sort of point out, and I'm curious to hear if people have other sort of use cases that they've identified where there's tools that just aren't meeting their current needs, whether that's in the process of doing a sort of scale OCDS implementation, or that's look users in a village somewhere, in Kenya, for example. Makueni comes to mind because we've been talking about Makueni recently. Where there's different whole series of tools that could be developed that aren't at the moment.
A good question to put to people, Andrew, and really good observations as well. So, does anyone have the demands or things that they thought it'd be really useful if we had that? But I called as well. We can start a thread on the discussion list. But Martin, please go ahead.
Yes. Hello. I for this call, but I already seen some of the tools yesterday, and I've seen the ETL tool that PostgreSQL, and we're using MongoDB. So how hard would it be for the tool to export data to a different type of database? Dutch in Kenya, but we're in Mexico City.
I think we're planning to use a lot of sort of things like normalized tables, and then sort of looking at these across those. So I'm not sure. I think it's possible. I don't think it's something we're not looking at ourselves at the moment, and I don't know how easy it would be to convert what we've done to do that without a bit of extra work. But certainly you could use the first part tool, so the extract part that would download files to disk, that you could then use different loading process for into a tool of your choice. I guess we'll take from this is that sort of using different databases is a question that's come up now, so that's something we'll bear in mind in the future.
And it's definitely something we can document about how you use the first part of that tool for fetching data and have a different load stage into say a MongoDB or a schema-less database. Because I think something we've definitely learned is different users need the data in different formats, different use cases. Noticed, Martin, in your in kind of the pre-survey responses, you talked about tools that can convert from CSV into, I don't know if that's from CSV to structured data, but I maybe wanted to just check people were aware of the feature that the OCDS validator has for that. So just very, very quickly going to screen share. It's small here, but a spreadsheet. So this is an example of a this could be a CSV file, or it could be an Excel sheet, multi-tabbed or single, where we've got our field paths as our headings and then some data within it. If I go to the OCDS validator, you take files like that, CSV or Excel files, and you load them into the validator, and it will convert into structured JSON. So that's taken the CSV, turned it into an, and that the command line version of that's also available if people need it. So it gives me a chance to just show slightly nicer formatting that the validator now has for telling you about errors, which I was mentioning earlier.
Sorry, I didn't know validator could do that. That's very interesting. How can we change format from one? I have a very complex mapping from CSV to OCDS. Like in cases, the granularity of the closed vocabularies in OCDS would not be enough to accommodate the answers we have. So we're doing we're putting like values from the original data to 3 values in the OCDS. We're adding an additional non-standard field to accommodate for the 4 values we had in the original data. Is that something that we could doing with this kind of tools? We already have a code for that. Yep. But if there's tools that are community built, I would consider switching to those if the functionality is there.
Yeah, so the tool behind that is a tool called Flatten Tool, which again I'll make sure we share links to in the chat and in the follow-up emails. It gives you a lot of flexibility in how you design the kind of input spreadsheets or input CSV files. So if you can create so we use it quite a lot to create spreadsheet templates in, say, Google Docs. You can use formulas to say paste in your data as it is with the 4 values, and a formula will turn that into the 3 values, and then the fieldings will kind of generate the additional fields, the column headings. That works for prototyping in our experience. For kind of production uses, it often helps to have scripted conversions, but certainly have a look at Flatten Tool, documentation for that, and I'd be happy to talk to you more about what you're trying to do and if there's ways that existing code could be used.
Interested. What do you mean it's not enough for production use?
So that's very good. If you had very standardized CSVs that you're running through it, then it could be used in bulk. I think we've just not ended up using it in that context. Maybe I'm playing it.
I think I will check it out.
I think that the output design Flatten Tool would make it just a bit awkward to use in production. And depending on what your data looks like, its memory usage can get terrifying. Not always in the way you expect, but definitely give it a try. It's stable, it's well maintained. We do a lot of work on it, and we do welcome bug reports and people, push further than we do. So yeah, give it a try.
Okay, for people to articulate any tools. So far, we're having a good record on if people surface a need. Someone's got the answer somewhere in the community. So, anything Tom and the TI for Health team that or the OC for Health team you're expecting you're going to have a need for in the coming months. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, I was trying to find where my mute button was. No, not a moment. That was very interesting. Thank you.
Great. Well,
Sure.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
This is Dave in Canada, and I guess just tool-wise, one of the things I've run into, and I've on the nonprofit side been trying to work with small jurisdiction governments, is providing that incentive to use it. So some of the stuff Andrew from DG was talking about around the analytics and some of the tools, so the potential around that ETL tool are great. Because one of the things I find with the data publishers is good incentive themselves, and having, seeing some of these, seeing more tools that deliver some of that analytics easily and quickly is a huge incentive. It's something pretty useful. And right now there's lots of those are lots of little tools that have bits and pieces built in, but not a lot of sort of open access tools where you could upload a large set of OCDS releases or anything.
Yeah, really good points, well, David, and I think it helps us maybe think as a community about what's the vision of where we want to be in terms of the maturity of tooling in the next 12 months. I think in the last 12 months there's been a lot of progress of a lot more code, reusable code, shared resources out there, but yet at that stage, as kind of Andrew was describing, of having a kind of marketplace that we can signpost the project manager to pick up these tools, and I think it's very realistic for us to aim to there in the coming year, and so do keep articulating those kind of demands that come up.
Appreciate it. I think that'll make a big difference in uptake of data usage and sort of knowing what some of it are, and frankly that's what many people who are using the data are doing with it, and so rather.
Absolutely. Papa, sorry, you cut for a moment there, David.
Oh, no.
Papa, our call for this week there, but or at least stop us recording. We'll leave the call open rather than just kind of instantly closing it.